Okay, I think we've taken care of all the cases where one party is present. And let's have Ms. Sparhawk, Ms. Lashley activate your audio videos, and Mr. McNeely and Ms. Mahoney come on up. Mr. McNeely, stand please. And Ms. Lashley, Ms. Sparhawk, both of you raise your right hands. Mr. McNeely, raise your right hand. Swear the testimony in this case to be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Folks, I'm waiting for a yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. You may be seated.
Your Honor, prior to beginning, Susan Mahoney, for the petitioner, if I could just make a preliminary motion which has to do with the petitioner's presentation, otherwise I would wait.
Go ahead.
My understanding from my client is that petitioners have uploaded a recorded phone call. I believe the phone call to be in violation of 973, a criminal violation, so I'd ask that that be suppressed. It is between, I believe, Ms. Sparhawk and respondent's girlfriend. Also, there is a video uploaded, and again, it has audio, again, without the respondent's permission. So I would also ask that the audio portion of that be suppressed as well.
You mean the one where he's talking to Ms. Sparhawk outside of her door?
Yes, or Mr. Sparhawk, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a lot. All right. I haven't listened to any phone conversation, and I don't intend to.
I'm not sure she's aware that that's not legal in the state of Washington. So.
Okay. All right. All right. I've read the petition. I think I may have been the one who initially entered the temporary orders. And there are some of the files that were submitted that the court couldn't open because of the way the files were submitted, but I've reviewed what I could. In essence, it seems as if the allegation is that there was a relationship between Ms. Lashley and Mr. McNeely. She wished it over, and he wants his car, and he's been pretty aggressive in seeking that and wanting to speak to Ms. Lashley over her objection. She does not want to have conversation with him. Ms. Lashley, go ahead. You can remember I've reviewed what you've submitted, at least to the extent that I could. You can tell me what you need to tell me in addition to that.
Your Honor, Riley and I broke up in late October. I have not been in contact with him since early March. He's been pretty persistent about the car, which I myself have done all that I can to refinance. I've talked to Volkswagen of Tacoma multiple times, and it puts myself in a situation. Refinancing the car is just, to me, is just not necessary. We both signed that lease. We both agreed that that would be my car when we were together. And when we broke up, I took the car with me as it was mine to drive. And that's really been the only argument that's been between us, but there was really no need or right for him to show up on that doorstep that night and harass us and be demanding and rude. And he's been nothing but rude about the whole car situation. And I've tried multiple times to get out of the car, to refinance the car. It is my form of transportation to and from work for all of my activities that I do. And when we signed the lease, we agreed it was my vehicle. So I don't see the need for him to be harassing me for the car. He has his own vehicle. We agreed that this would be mine. There was really no other conversation about it. I left, had no intentions of talking to him, seeing him again, meeting with him again. And ultimately, I just am fed up, and I'm scared at this point because he just seems everywhere I go, he's there. I turn around and something happens, like we hadn't been in conversation since March, and all of a sudden he shows up on my friend's doorstep on a random night that I'm there. I don't live there. I visit there often, but he should have no idea of me being there. Like, there's no reason for him to be on that street, for him to be near their house. I don't get it, and it honestly terrifies me that he just shows up areas that I'm at.
When was the last time you heard from Mr. McNeely?
I submitted that. The last time I heard from him was March 1st. There's a text message that I sent in response to a voicemail that he had left for me. And I had told him that I had gone through all my options for refinancing and that I didn't think it was fair to put myself in a tight financial spot regarding the car. I've talked to multiple dealers from Volkswagen of Tacoma. They all have advised me that it's not in my best interest to refinance the car on my own or to get a new one, essentially. That car has $8,000 worth of negative equity, which it is what it is. I have to finish out my lease in order for me to get the full amount from the car. And Riley proceeded to text me back, and I basically asked him to leave it be and to leave me alone, and his response was, "Or what?" So I changed my phone number that day. I blocked anyone or any person I thought that may have been like possibly reaching out to him or that we had a mutual contact with. And I have not looked back, and that was the last time I had heard from him until he showed up on Cassidy and Keaton Sparhawk's home that night.
All right, you indicate in your petition that he's threatened you. Tell me what you mean by that.
Not physically threatening or by any means. It's just more of I don't have evidence of him calling my work, but he's called my work. He's left notes on my cars at my old job site. He's also threatened to take the car multiple times, which we're both on the lease and my name's on it, so I can drive it. I have both keys. It is my car. That's the only threatening he's ever been, is about the car.
All right. Ms. Mahoney, do you have questions for Ms. Lashley?
I just wanted to clarify two things if I could. Ms. Lashley, hello, good morning. So until he came to your home on May 21st, or to Ms. Sparhawk's house, you had not heard from him since March 1st, correct?
Yes.
Or you sent him a text on March 1st, but there'd been no contact in between?
So March 1st, I responded to a voicemail that he had left for me.
Right, okay.
And then he sent the "or what" text, and that was the last text message I got from him because I changed my phone number. And I'm sure he would have continued to contact me about the car if I had not changed that phone number.
All right, and you've already acknowledged you're both on the car, so financially both liable for the car, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And finally, the other thing is you actually did succeed in getting a refinance at Volkswagen in Tacoma, correct? And then opted not to enter it? That was in February?
That was to look into refinancing, and I was told that I would have to pay an insane amount of money towards the car up front, and then my personal monthly payments, since I've made the monthly payments since we've had the car, every month I have made the payment myself. Okay. So no, it was not an option at that point because I was not going to put myself in a financial burden because we decided to do something together when we were in a relationship. Now that we are out of it, I do not think it's fair to be personally responsible for a choice that we both made.
And with regard to that refinancing, you had actually, Volkswagen, where the original dealership had leased it to you, had reached out to you. You did not respond, correct? So you might have gotten a more favorable deal at the Olympia Volkswagen. Isn't that correct?
That's not correct. I actually did talk to her on the phone and the statement was the same. The only thing that I was aware to my knowledge is that Riley showed up and signed some paperwork, but they told me that they made me aware that as long as I didn't sign any documents, that there was nothing to be done. The price was going to be the same. I've went there 3 times now since February.
Okay,
we keep talking about it.
That's all. I just wanted to clarify that we've gotten what the reasoning was.
All right, and let me make clear to both parties, I'm not going to decide the right to the car. So that's not an issue for me. The only issue for me is the nature of the relationship. I know the car is the precipitating issue, but I'm not going to decide anything about the car. This is not the form in which that will be done.
Right. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Does Mr. McNeely wish to make any comments?
Were you, oh, you're going to do these separately. You received his affidavit, correct? And the brief that we filed last week. I filed it on Tuesday or Wednesday. We followed up and said, make sure it gets in the court file.
I don't have anything filed, and the last thing I have filed is June 20th.
Oh, no. I sent it to the email. I called and contacted, they confirmed
Yeah, do we have
on
anything?
Tuesday of last week or Wednesday.
I don't-
The TCDC. Is that, did I say that right?
Yeah. There's nothing in the file currently, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I filed it.
Okay,
So I
yeah,
have the
yeah,
5
yeah,
days.
hold on just a second.
I believe it was
Do
Wednesday.
you have a
ma'am, if
hard
that
copy there?
helps. Pardon?
Do you have a hard copy there?
I have the brief, but not the affidavit. I couldn't print it. But his affidavit would be in this testimony. Pardon? Can I briefly have him testify, then I'll try and
Sure.
truncate it.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna let Kayla just sort of finish looking to see if she can find the affidavit.
It was a PDF.
Yeah, it was filed.
Don't know why. And I would email it to you again, but I can't get on Wi-Fi.
And did you provide copies to Ms. Lashley?
And Ms. Sparhawk.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
They had a mailing address and I emailed it to the address they provided as service address. I was not served with their information, but my client saw it.
Thank you.
Were you able to open it?
This is what it is.
It's the declaration. He's got a copy of the brief. I filed one brief, but 2 copies of the declaration, one in the Sparhawk file and
That's the only thing that I'm showing.
and I was not served this. Can I take this up? I was not served this.
Everything, the
Yeah,
last
I
thing we
didn't
got.
upload it because I called and she said I could just email it. It's gonna fax it. She said, oh, just email.
The last thing we got was from the bid, from.
But not in the email that you can't open. On Wednesday.
Those were from the petition. I didn't get anything. Don't have anything from that date.
Well,
So
Your Honor, I don't know
so
what happened.
Okay, great. I'm reading your brief, so
Okay,
give me a chance to finish it. And then you can present testimony from Mr. McNeely.
Madam Clerk, if I were to email you, I got in, I bypassed it. If I were able to email it to you now, the affidavit, could you print it off for the judge?
Yes, it should be tcbccivil@co.com.
Okay, yeah, that's not the one they gave me, sorry. I haven't filed in this court before, and when I call, they. Want this, let me open it. Why it's dark, usually when it's dark, it means it won't let me do anything. I worked really hard to make the filing deadline too. I apologize. I'm trying, it's dark. Which usually means it's not working. So TCDC at,
No, it's tcbccivil@co.person.
at county CO,
.person.wa.us.
thank you. Sure this is working. Come right now. The declaration I sent is actually the same for both cases, so even though it has a different heading on it.
Back, I think those are unassociated.
Those are for my afternoon calendar.
And would you like your brief back?
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
all right, so you can just get elicit testimony from Mr. McNeely in regards to the questions you have for him.
Mr. McNeely, you had a relationship with Ms. Lashley, correct?
Correct.
For how long?
About 1 year.
And you leased a car together?
Correct.
And do you work at the Volkswagen dealership where you leased the car?
Correct.
Right. So you did receive a pretty substantial financial deal on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, remember, I'm not going to.
No, I understand, Your Honor. It goes to the credit. I just kind of the whole background because it is our position that this is.
Yeah,
really
and
just a-
remember, I've read what's been filed. I read your brief, so.
Right, it's not his
Okay.
testimony, so I'm trying to give facts in the record, but I appreciate it. Okay, then I will rely on the declaration. And it's the same for both cases.
And you provided the declaration to.
Yes,
Ms.
brief and
Lashley.
declaration, both for
Sparhawk.
mail.
Okay, thank you.
Did you not receive them?
We did
No,
not
Your Honor.
receive. No, Your Honor. We have not.
They were put in the US mail last Tuesday.
All right, well, then I can't read this because they don't have access to it.
All right.
And
I'll
it's
just
not
have
in
him-
the court
I will
file,
have him
so
testify.
Do it by way of testimony, please.
All right, and with regard, then when you broke up, she did take the car, correct?
Correct.
And may I have some latitude to lead, just to,
Yes, sure.
thank you. And Mr. McNeely, when she took the car, was it your understanding that she would attempt to refinance it, so you were not financially obligated?
Correct.
All right. And so did you try and reach her to follow up on that?
Yes,
All right. Were you calling her, how many times do you think you called her between end of October and February?
it was a long time ago, but I want to say probably 6 times.
And at one point, when you happened to be driving by her workplace in Olympia, did you stop and leave a note in the car?
Correct, on the windshield.
What did it say?
Talking about the car, we need to talk and get off this loan.
All right. And why did you go into her workplace?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
It's not my business to go in there. I just want to get off the loan so we can separate.
All right. And did you plan on going there?
No, I was driving by and
And where is your understanding of where Ms. McNeely, or excuse me, Ms. Lashley was living after you broke up?
was Miss Sparhawk's house when we broke up. She had moved there. She had,
So had you been by the house at all between October and May 21st of this year?
no, ma'am.
So when you went there, it was your belief she was living there?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you remember about what time it was that evening?
I do not recall the exact time.
Was it in the middle of the night?
No, ma'am. No, it was probably sunfall.
All right. And when you were there that evening, did you ever speak with Ms. Lashley?
No, I did not.
All right. Did you ever see Ms. Lashley?
No, I did not.
All right. And who did you speak with?
Keaton Sparhawk and then Cassidy had spoken as well.
All right. But when you initially were remembering this, did you even remember speaking with Ms. Sparhawk?
No, ma'am.
So your primary conversation was with him, correct?
Exactly.
Did you threaten anyone with their physical safety?
No, I did not.
All right. Did you make any threats of any kind to anyone?
No, I did not.
All right. Have you ever physically harmed Ms. Lashley in any way?
No, I have not.
You ever threatened her physically in any way?
No, I have not.
And between March, when she asked you not to text her anymore, and you stopping by in May, had you made any attempt to contact her at all?
No, I have not.
All right. And have you ever tried to talk to her about anything other than this car loan?
No, ma'am.
And what does being on the car loan do for you? Why are you so concerned about it?
Because I have a life with a new girlfriend. I have a daughter I have to look after, and we are looking to purchase a home. It's affecting me financially, being on this loan, as well as mental stress, just knowing that I am tagged along with Haley. I don't want to be in her life anymore. That's the sole reason I want off this loan.
And there's about another year and few months. When is it? September of 2025 that the lease is up, or 24?
2025, I believe.
Right, thank you.
I believe at this time, Your Honor, that is all.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lashley, Mr. McNeely says between October and February, he called you approximately 6 times. What's your memory?
Your Honor, if I believe that if we're gonna get into our
Okay.
like deep into the conversations like that, I would like to submit more evidence because I have hundreds of phone calls and probably I could count maybe 20 or so voicemails that he's left for me. I'm pretty sure he called me 6 times in one day, actually. He's called me multiple times. I've blocked his number and I had to unblock it to let him know in March that I had done everything I could for the car. And again, I know this is not about the car, but that was the only reason why I unblocked him. And then to get the or what text is why I changed my phone number, because I then realized he was not going to leave me alone.
Okay. And he indicated he came to your work one time and left a note on your car. Do you have any other information?
Yes, he left a note on my car. And again, if I could submit more evidence, I actually still have that note and it had nothing to do with the car. It was everything about how he was in love with me and that he just wanted me back. And then he's also tried to call my work pretending to be somebody else so that I would talk to him since he was blocked. And I have a blocked voicemail that he had left on my phone after that stating that he would stop calling my work.
Okay. And how did you know it was him calling you? If he was, did you actually speak to him?
He called my work. My receptionist answered at the time and asked who it was. He used a different name. And then she came up to me, said, someone is asking for you by, I don't exactly remember what name he was using. Then I went to the phone and I said, hi, my name is Haley. How can I help you? And he goes, it's me. Please don't hang up. Don't block me. I need to talk to you. And so I hung up and I said, please don't call this number again. And I can get my old boss to validate for me. I can get my
Okay,
receptionist.
wait,
to validate
we're
for me.
gonna do what we're doing today. So
Okay.
based on the testimony of the parties. Okay. All right, and Ms. Sparhawk, Mr. McNeely says his contacts at your home were with your husband and not with you.
They were with both of us, Your Honor. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that.
Sure. We also, I just want for the record, we're not under the influence or anything of the sort that night. So our memory is crystal clear. My husband opened the door and I let it go on for maybe 20 seconds with what he was saying. As soon as I heard my husband say, you need to leave, you're not welcome here. Oh man, my heart sunk. I was like, no way is he going to try to get Haley right now. And no way is he going to try to do something with my husband right now, because I don't think he would do something personally to me if I were there, because I think he, at the end of the day, maybe respects me a little bit, but I definitely intercepted and I said, whoa, what are you doing here? You need to leave. There's no reason for you to be at my home. It was 9:30 at night. We were putting my boys to bed. I was in my nightgown. It scared us and it shook us so bad. It scared my boys. Like, we've just never been in like a situation like that before. And he called my husband an SHIT dad twice, and they heard it. They were standing on the stairs freaking out. So, that whole situation was unnecessary, unwarranted. It didn't need to happen, and it has shaken our entire family. So I feel like I'm in the middle of this, and I should not be. I love Haley. She is my friend, and I'll help her and be there for her for the rest of my life. But I can't handle being in this. I want my kids to be safe and me to be safe, our business to be safe, our home. This is our safe place. So.
All right, so as far after the 21st of May, has there been any contact from Mr. McNeely?
Not from Mr. McNeely directly. His girlfriend called me. And I didn't know his girlfriend. I didn't know her
At
name.
this point, I'm going to object.
No, I'm
because
gonna-
Mr. McNeely had no knowledge of
I'm
that.
gonna hear, I'll hear. Okay, go ahead.
And I was scared. She made me believe she was scared for her safety. It was kind of manipulative. And I've not been in this situation. So I immediately said, I don't know if this damaged the order or something. So I called our police officer. I told him, and he said, at this point, I think it's okay. I don't know if he directly told her to call or whatnot, but the officer proceeded to call her. And then Riley McNeely decided to call the officer. The officer called me and he said, now I know why you guys feel the way you feel. He was very threatening. He's very demanding, coercive. I didn't know what to do. I don't know what to do in this position. I don't want to be in this position. And I do want to apologize to the court for submitting a video or the audio of her phone call with me. However, I was under no knowledge that that was not allowed because she called me while I was
Okay,
at.
yeah, I haven't listened to it, so
Okay,
it's
good.
not going to be an issue of evidence in this case.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all right. Thank you. Ms. Mahoney, do you have anything else?
Ms. Sparhawk, it was Ms. Clark that called you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And as you just stated, and I appreciate your candor, you don't know if Mr. McNeely had anything to do with that phone call, correct?
I don't know, other than I knew they were together. Why else would she be calling me?
And did you make a phone call to the police asking they do a welfare check on Ms. Clark?
Oh, absolutely. I was terrified. I was terrified for her. She was crying on the phone, telling me that he was a narcissist, that she has a 2-year-old baby she's trying to protect, that she ran away to Idaho to get away from him.
Okay, I just asked, ma'am, if you called the police on, to have them check on her.
He actually asked me if I wanted to check on her.
Okay.
Yes, I was worried.
All right,
Absolutely.
nothing further.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Mahoney, any argument? And I've read your brief.
No, I understand this is an unfortunate situation, and I really do think it all comes down to the car, to this being a financial burden to him, to being in a relationship that moved on. I think what's important here, first of all, with Ms. Sparhawk is I don't doubt she was upset that night. And maybe Mr. McNeely did not use the best judgment, but legally it does not qualify as harassment. There were no physical threats. He was at the home the one time. If you do watch the video, although, you know, he doesn't leave right away, and he acknowledges that I'm sorry, I forgot to ask him, but do you acknowledge that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that he went back and forth with Mr. Sparhawk a bit, but he did not physically threaten anyone. He didn't make any property damage when he left. In the video, you can see cars and you never see him drive by again.
Oh, can I say
Okay,
something?
yeah,
sorry.
hold on, Ms. Sparhawk, hold on.
But in any case, you know, under unlawful harassment, there still needs to be at least 2 incidents. It needs to be directed to a particular person. And it needs to be of the type of unlawful behavior, not necessarily boorish or rude behavior, maybe that was displayed here, but this is not harassment. And I don't think she needs to worry about him going back to her house again. I think having to hire an attorney and be here has taught him where he stands and how this works, and that will not be an issue in the future. With regard to Ms. Lashley, by her own words, he's never physically threatened her. He has called her. And I think there is a dispute, obviously, about how much, but it is interesting that those weren't submitted. He says less, she says more. Let's be honest, it's probably somewhere in the middle. But it does tend to be over the car. No one seems to dispute that it's over the car. I do think there'd be a dispute that he had feelings for her. He moved on with Ms. Clark quite soon after their breakup. And he is financially on the hook for this. And he did understand that she was going to try and refinance it. He works in the business. He has a different understanding of what it takes to refinance. They got the car for $18,000. It's a $34,000 car. So there was, you know, financially, probably, you know, he didn't expect there to be a significant difference. And his manager had reached out trying to help her refinance it so he could be off and she could have still the decent deal that she had on this car that she can't replace. He doesn't have a problem with her having the car. He just didn't want to be financially obligated on it for 2 more years. And if something happens to the car, he's legally obligated. And so I think that's really the crux here, but it's not domestic violence. And I think the point has been made, and I have explained to him that he may likely be stuck on this lease, because sometimes in relationships, when we make decisions, we have to own those decisions. But I do not believe that the burden's been met here as to what the purpose of these orders are, given their debilitation and what happens with them, and that the proof here is just not met legally on Ms. Sparhawk for sure. It's a credibility call, I understand, for your honor, but looking at the big picture over time, and he hasn't excessively contacted her. Again, going to the house that evening wasn't wise, but there had been a big space in between. And so I think that if this was, you know, every day for the last, you know, 9 months, that might be a different thing, but it hasn't been.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Cases.
Okay. Dad went to work. Dad's at work.
Yeah, they'll give me the full file.
What was that?
The full file.
Um,
Yeah,
okay,
everything.
yeah, let me grab that.
Thank you. Nope. Yep. And Ms. Lashley, did you and Mr. McNeely used to live together?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
We
Yes,
don't
Your Honor.
disagree, they're intimate partners.
Okay, thank you. And you referred to a child, Mr. McNeely, but it's not Ms. Lashley's child.
No, Your Honor.
All right, as I indicated, I had read what had been filed, including what was filed today that we previously didn't have access to. And I reviewed the brief that Ms. Mahoney filed on behalf of Mr. McNeely. I heard testimony from the various parties and make the following findings as to the case involving Ms. Lashley and Mr. McNeely. In this case, they broke up in October. The car, as Ms. Mahoney points out, was the issue. And that all the parties seem to agree that that was the primary issue, although Ms. Lashley points out that the note that Mr. McNeely left didn't refer to the car. It referred to him trying to get back in the relationship or express remorse about the end of the relationship. A little unclear to me, but regardless, the car seems to be the primary point of contention here. I do note that there was written evidence by way of text messages concerning the car back and forth, and then Ms. Lashley had made a point of saying, I don't want to hear from you anymore, or I'll get an order or something. And then or just said, I don't want to hear from you anymore. And Mr. McNeely said, or what? With a fairly strong implication that that wouldn't stop him. And this in the face of Ms. Lashley's testimony that Mr. McNeely contacted her hundreds of times. Mr. McNeely said it was 6. Hundreds not being a precise number, 6 being a fairly precise number. I'm going to guess 6 is way low. Hundreds may be high, but I think there was probably a lot of contact because Mr. McNeely was very interested in getting off the car. Then did he just happen by Ms. McNeely's place of employment and leave a note? That's what Mr. McNeely says. I'm not sure. I'm convinced that that wasn't done on purpose, but regardless, that's another effort here. And then finally, Mr. McNeely testifies that he believes that Ms. Lashley is residing at the Sparhawk's address, and hence he goes there in May after some period of quiet in the relationship, and is fairly obstinate, basically saying he's not leaving until he talks to her and he knows she's there. All of this in the face of Ms. Lashley having previously said, I don't want any contact with you. And you're forcing into contact when she's made clear she doesn't want any from you. And the fact that there may be a financial interest at hand doesn't change that, doesn't give somebody a right to engage in that behavior. I am going to enter the protection order for Ms. Lashley. Mr. McNeely, you're not to have any contact with Ms. Lashley for the next year. You're not to go within 1,000 feet of her home or workplace or vehicle. Ms. Lashley, if you want this order renewed, you'll have to come back to court and ask for it to be renewed. The issue of the car is going to have to be handled in ways that don't involve direct contact between the parties.
Yes, sir.
As to Ms. Sparhawk's case, the primary evidence here is that Mr. McNeely went to the home on the 21st of May of somebody uninvolved in the car dispute other than Mr. McNeely's mind. They were housing Ms. Lashley. Ms. Lashley said she was visiting at the time. I don't think whether she was resident or visiting really is an essential fact there. Other than Ms. Lashley would argue that it means that he was stalking her by knowing she was there on a day she was happened to be serendipitously present. But I'm not going to make a finding that way. I can't determine that based on the evidence presented before the court. Mr. McNeely's behavior at that time was totally inappropriate, as I think Ms. Mahoney's recognized. He was asked to leave, asked fairly politely at first, and then told to leave. And he basically said, I'm not leaving until I get to talk to her. And that's not a right that he has at that point, particularly given the history in the case. However, I don't think that there's been no contact since then. I'm going to deny the request for a protection order by Ms. Sparhawk. But what I will say, Mr. McNeely, is Ms. Sparhawk went to the effort of filing a petition with the court seeking protection. Even though I don't find the facts warrant the entry of that order today, she's made very clear that she and her family do not want any contact from you, whether Ms. Lashley's there or not.
Yes, sir.
And I expect that you will fully comply with that. I have no idea about this call by Ms. Clark. It doesn't sound like it was something you put her up to, because she seemed to be reporting that to Ms. Sparhawk that she was afraid of you. So I'm not sure that that would make any sense that you would somehow put her up to the call. But I expect that you won't contact her. I expect you won't have any third parties contact the Sparhawks.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so I've entered a denial on that order and a order on Ms. Lashley's case. We'll provide, since you're present in court, hard copies of those orders. And for Ms. Sparhawk and Ms. Lashley, copies of those orders will be available in the electronic file that you have at district court, and you can access it that way.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. And Ms. Mahoney, thank you. Mr. McNeely, thank you.